Hi guys, welcome back to another video. This is my first video of 2021. And this year's already been stuff's happened that I don't really want to think about right now. So we're just gonna delve right into the topic of today's video, which is an Again But Better book talk. Again But Better by Christine Riccio. Christine is a booktuber and I've been watching her for about 3 or 4 years now, and I knew she had a book. I know she has a second book on the way, and I was like, you know what? I've watched every single book writing vlog about this book. Let's actually read it this year. So that's what I decided to do. I give it around a 6 or 7 out of 10. I did highly enjoy this book. It was a fun little read. It wasn't too long. I literally got through the second half of the book in a night. I got quite invested in Shane, who's our main character, and just her everyday life as a study abroad student. All I knew before I started reading was Shane is American, she's a college student, and she goes abroad to the UK, and more specifically London, which I am rather familiar with because I'm British. People who haven't read this book, here's my one sentence review. It's a very fun read. You get to just see the characters interact with each other whilst also exploring London and other European cities, and Shane really learns to kind of interact with people outside of just her main family, and it's just really nice. There are a lot of references, so be wary of the amount of references. Anyway, for those of you who don't want spoilers, come back when you've actually read this book, because I don't want to be that person who's just like, oh yeah, by the way, here's everything that happened. Okay, y'all have read the book, right? Or you don't care about spoilers. It's either you've read the book or you don't care about spoilers. One of two. Well, I'm going to pick up slightly where I just left off, which is the references in this book. Don't get me wrong, I love a good reference every now and then. It has a lot. It kind of feels like watching when I watched Ready Player One. When did it come out? 2018, I think. So a couple years ago when I watched Ready Player One, it kind of has that feeling of there are a lot of references. And I've heard the complaint by people that it feels rather self-inserty. I do definitely see where that is coming from, because there are a lot of similarities between Shane, who is our main character, and Christine, who is our author, and I can definitely see where some people kind of struggled to differentiate between the two characters. Now, does that make this book extremely bad or anything? No, I still enjoyed this. I'd give it about a 6 or a 7 out of 10. It was a fun book. It was fun to just see Shane step out of her bubble and begin not only to explore new places, but also to explore new relationships, new friendships. And speaking of relationships, let's get to my main kind of problem with not just this book. Like, it's not just a this book thing, just romance in general. I'm not the biggest fan of romances in media. I'm not a massive fan of having romance in every single movie I watch. I do occasionally go out of my way to avoid them unless I can really root for people in the relationship. If I can root for the main two characters getting together, then I'm not as cagey about it. But a lot of the time, I don't quite see it. At the beginning of the book, in the first half of the book, I do actually quite root for Shane and Pilot, who is our male lead, and they get along quite well. She seems like not fully at ease, but she seems like there's a certain chemistry where they are kind of relaxed a little around each other, and it's really just, I'm mostly there for watching Shane grow as a person, and I feel like she did do that in the first half of the book a bit. She learned to grow outside of herself up until the incident, I'm gonna call it for now. you know, where her parents show up out of nowhere for no reason. When I say, when, let me just say, when I read that, I had to I was laying in my bed at like 11 p.m. at night, and I went, what? What just happened? Her parents came right now? With no warning or anything? I was screaming internally because I was like, oh no, this is about to go horribly, horribly wrong. And it did. And I really liked that point because even though Pilot and Shane hadn't spoken for a while, like a while, Pilot still decided to show up for Shane. Pilot did, and also Babe was trying to help, and Atticus was trying to help, and Sarah, listen, Sarah is just, poor girl. She didn't know, and I just feel so bad for her because she probably felt really guilty afterwards, realizing, oh, I shouldn't have said what I did, but she did, but it's fine. I love her. Anyway, so I just like the way that the whole flat managed to get, like, rally together. Like, watching them develop friendships was so nice. Because, like, while the main thing is just like, oh yeah, Shane and Pilot like each other. Pilot has a girlfriend, and Shane's kind of awkward. But you also just got to see, like, Shane and Babe, like, being friends. And Sarah coming out of her bubble and kind of interacting more. And Atticus just... Anytime Atticus was just being such a nice person, I was like, yes, thank you. This is what we need. Sometimes we just want a male and female friendship. Sometimes we just want a guy and a girl to be friends, okay? Like, don't get me wrong, romance is fine when it's done well, but sometimes I just want a girl and a guy to be friends, and Atticus was there just being a good friend, and I was just very happy with that. Now, them exploring the different cities. So they start off in London, where it's predominantly based, and I was like, cool, you're actually at a part of London that I haven't gone to that often, and I can't really go to because the situation that we're not going to talk about. But it was just really nice. I liked the fact that they kind of, everyone got to explore and hang out, and like, they're in college, so they're in class, and Shane was doing a creative writing class, and I love writing. I love reading, I love writing. I just love being creative, so it was fun. But also kind of like, it was kind of sad to see her writing the postcards to her parents, being like, I know that if you knew what I was doing, you would not like it at all, and you would be really, like, annoyed and pissed off at me. And that was just kind of like, it sucked because, like, I've never personally had to deal with the pressure of certain expectations when it comes to going into certain professions, but I know that a lot of people have had those pressures of their parents wanting them to go into a certain profession, like being a lawyer, being a doctor. So to see someone who clearly does not want to go into that profession, but having the kind of pressure on them to be a doctor because her mom, like, gave up being pre-med because she was having a child, and she kind of, in a way, sacrificed her profession and her career in order to raise a child. And obviously her father coming from the kind of background where his father had tried to do the kind of creative thing, trying to be an artist, be someone who hasn't got the most conventional career path, and it not going so on, and in turn they had a very strained relationship, and for him to want his daughter to be able to go into a stable profession where she'd be able to thrive in a way that he never got to, or that he didn't, because of the fact that just just because of the way that different relationships work out, and you don't, at least from what I understand of parenthood, like, I'm clearly not a parent in any way, shape, or form, but from what I've seen from parents around me and just a lot of things, is just like, you want your kid to have an easier life than you ever did. You want your kids to be able to just not have to struggle the way that you've witnessed yourself struggle, or the way that relatives of yours struggled. You want your kids to have an easier life than you ever did. And so watching Shane kind of deal with those pressures, whilst I can't fully relate to it because I haven't had those pressures in the same way, it was really just like, it was easy for me to kind of slip into Shane and like be able to kind of be like, oh, okay, like I can kind of understand what she was feeling. Get to the big old clash at the dinner party, where you see that sometimes parents aren't fully appreciative or aren't fully supportive of what you want to do. And I can see both sides of the story. For instance, with her parents, I can understand that, yeah, you would be pissed that your kid has gone abroad and lied to you about what they were doing abroad, and you've been paying for them and you didn't know what they were actually trying to do. But at the same time, I also see from Shane's perspective, where she tried to tell them that she wanted to be a writer. She wanted to do creative writing when she started college, and they didn't listen to her. They said, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to go and do pre-med. And I can see exactly where both sides are coming from and how both sides feel hurt and betrayed by the other. And it's just kind of sad to see that the parental relationship is so strained, especially when you get into the second half of the book, which starts in 2017, and even when the twist later, when they end up going back in time, and you get to hear Shane reflecting on the fact that her and her parents have never had the same relationship that they had before London 2011, because of that day. The same way that none of her family are close anymore, and that the relationships have been strained and all of that stuff. So yeah, let's get on to Pilot, who I have some. I liked Pilot, but also I had problems with Pilot. For instance, bro, listen to me. What the hell do you mean you didn't check to see if she fully heard the voicemail? What do you mean that you didn't make sure that the person you were breaking up with over the phone knew that you were breaking up with her? What do you mean? You didn't check? That's messed up. You didn't check? What do you mean you didn't check? Like, if you're breaking up with someone, you need to make sure that you're both on the same page. Because otherwise, the second half, that conflict in the second half of the book would have never happened if you had just made sure that, hey, I'm breaking up with you. I need you to know that. The fact that Amy felt so scared the rest of your relationship in 2017, 6 years later, and she still feels like she needs to kind of watch out for anyone that you interact with, and it doesn't seem right that also you stayed in this relationship. Both of you stayed in this relationship, but both of you feel as if something is, like, you constantly have to be looking over your shoulder and seeing, like, am I doing something wrong? Is there something that can be misinterpreted because I'm doing X, Y, and Z? And that just doesn't seem right. Where the hell did the second half of this book come from? I wasn't prepared for them to go back in time. What kind of Back to the Future stuff happened? Like, they woke up in 2011 and I went, oh, again, but okay. When the title starts to click in your head, when the title makes sense to you suddenly, and it's like, oh. Second time around, I'm very glad that Shane, after her and Pilot had a falling out again. They had multiple falling outs. That's weird. Anyway, They had a falling out again after Amy turned up, and it came out that hey, he did he tried to break up with her, but it didn't quite work out. I'm glad that she took time to herself. She didn't talk to Pilot for a while, and that was good for her because she needed to stop being so. I'm hoping I'm using this word in the right context. Codependent on him. She was very much. He was taking over her life in a way that no one like. Your partner should not be taking over your life in such a way. Like, you should be able to exist as your own person, even when you're in a relationship. If you become the same person or your lives only revolve around each other, like, you need to be able to take some alone time to kind of, like, you've got to keep your own personality while in a relationship because you're two people, not one. You're partners. You're there to help each other with things. You're there to be secure with each other, and like, you're supposed to uplift each other, not become each other or be only consumed by each other, because then what about your own goals? Like, what are you supposed to do? She hung out with Babe and Sarah a lot more, which was good because, we need people to be friends. Friends are very important. And this is very rambly. I'm so sorry. I'm very bad at structuring my thoughts. I'm just very glad that she took time to herself. She did really well at her internship, which was really nice. She had a better relationship the second time around with people, even though they got off to a rocky start, because again, she was fully consumed by Pilot. She wasn't really paying attention. She wasn't doing as well as she could when it came to actually, applying herself to her internship. She kind of got off on the wrong foot, but eventually she got back on track. She got back to doing the things that she loved to do, such as writing and doing her blog, and eventually she got published in the magazine, which is really cool. And it was a nice moment for her to be able to be like, hey, I'm still a person. Like, I can do things whether or not I'm in a relationship. The whole button thing was stupid, in my opinion. It felt like an easy way out, the button. It felt like when Shane gets to the point where it's like I did all these good things, but also I'm going back to America, and if I don't get a job, then this whole time would have been for nothing. And it's like, girl, you've been living for 2-3 months in 2011 again. Why are you now you know what, forget it, I'll go back, I'll do medicine again, I'll be a doctor again. It's like, I don't know, it didn't sit right with me. It kind of felt like, it just felt like a really easy reset button, and I just didn't enjoy that bit. The kind of oh, we're looking for the button and we're doing this, and oh, we've got the button and he wants to use it now, but she doesn't want to use it now. But then later she wants to use it, but then all of a sudden, hey, look, there's Pilot over there coming up to serenade her with Taylor Swift songs. It's just the constant references to Taylor Swift, and then also the lamppost thing being an all based from Harry Potter / the okays from The Fault in Our Stars was kind of it was kind of cringy. I can't lie. It was kind of cringy. There were certain bits I was like, ooh, yeah, I've most likely definitely read that in a fanfic. Yeah. But don't get me wrong, I did like this book. It was enjoyable, and I would recommend, if you just want a fun read to get you out of whatever this earth the last year has been, and this year so far isn't doing so hot. If you just want to escape and just have a very chill short read, I'd recommend this book, honestly. But those were my thoughts on Again But Better by Christine Riccio. Suddenly I've become really English in my accent. I don't know why it changes. I'm very confused. If you like this video, give it a like, follow me on Instagram, which will be here, and on Twitter, which will be here. Subscribe to my channel if you want more book talks. WandaVision is coming out soon, so I will definitely be talking about that show because I'm still a Marvel fan. Even though it's been a little while, I haven't watched anything since Far From Home came out. I'm probably gonna have a lot of thoughts on that show because, first of all, it's sitcom-y, which is interesting. Second of all, I'm not gonna lie, Wanda isn't my favourite character ever, and Vision is not either. I think they're interesting characters, but do I like them is another matter entirely. Because, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a big old Tony Stark Iron Man fan, and I just don't understand why we let her onto the Avengers after Age of Ultron, because yeah, she stopped being a bad guy and her brother died, but also she did mess with the minds of a lot of the characters. Everyone except Hawkeye, actually. So yeah, I'm gonna have thoughts on that. That show begins airing on Disney Plus on January 15th, which is literally a week from today. So I will see you next week. Bye.